What is up, team? Killchain here, and I've had the absolute privilege over the last 48 hours of warming the bench while everyone else tests Alpha. Now, I know my place, and you guys will know your place as well when it comes to Fury and the Slayer hero talent tree. Now, unfortunately, we're not good. We're sitting in a feels bad spot. So first, a quick reminder on how Slayer functions for Fury. We have the top node that basically means your attacks have a high chance to cause this extra strike. Much like how sidearm kind of functions, right? Where you're just proccing this extra source of damage. Quite low, but most importantly, you will be getting the marked for execution buff. Now, it stacks up to 3 times. Each one increases your next execute. Seems pretty straightforward. You'll also have callback to our Season 1 tier set, whereby the imminent demise means that your sudden death's chance to proc is a higher rate. And as part and parcel of that as well, when you use your sudden death, it'll make your next Blade Storm have an additional tick in the same duration time. So you can see we've got Blade Storm back, and it is a 6-second duration. So that'll mean that you could have anywhere up to 3 additional ticks, but still within that same 6-second time frame. Really, really cool. And everything in terms of your filler that's been brought to light by Slayer is everything to do with Bloodthirst, unfortunately. You'll get some CDR for Bloodthirst, you'll get more damage from Bloodthirst, and most importantly, and where this all starts to be a bit frustrating, is that Frenetic Flurry is only from Bloodthirst. So your Bloodthirst will have a chance to cause this little mini Blade Storm that, as you can see, will do an extra 250% damage, and they've detailed it in a way that this little channel of Blade Storm that ticks only once will actually be within a global cooldown, so it's a very quick source of a channel, basically not even a channel. You can still use Pummel and Stormbolt whilst Blade Storming, which is really, really good, but also it shouldn't disrupt the flow of your gameplay based on, forcing this random Blade Storm. And it's really cool as well is some of the positives is that it'll feed into imminent demise. So if you had a full 3 stacks, that means you get a full 3 extra ticks of Blade Storm, but you proc it with Frenetic Flurry from Bloodthirst itself. That Blade Storm that's supposed to only do 1 random little tick will consume the extra 3 and cause 4 total ticks in that 1 random little spaz attack instead of just the 1. So cool. Sounds really good on paper. The main issue that you'll see, and there has been some changes to literally everything, obviously class side and spec side as I mentioned, it's forcing you to go down the Bloodthirst kind of rabbit hole. And the unfortunate reality is that just this one talent alone means you want to be hitting Bloodthirst every time it's off cooldown. Because every missed Bloodthirst opportunity means you could potentially be missing out on this random free Blade Storm, right? So because of that, obviously you want to hit Bloodthirst on every cooldown. And the unfortunate reality is these talents aren't set in stone, by the way. I'm sort of just throwing around very early preliminary ideas. But to get the namesake of this build, Slayer, obviously you want Blade Storm. So you have to path all the way down here. In tandem with that, you also kind of need to invest a heavy amount into the right-hand side of the tree, which means you do need to path early to the right-hand side to pick up Improved Whirlwind and Meat Cleaver. They are absolute staples in AoE. And you'll also know, additionally, that the 4 total talents that pick up improvements to execute are all on the right side of the tree as well. It's very much why we used to run the Raging Blow build, which also is the right-hand side of the tree, with the execute. So you get the improved execute, so it actually generates rage, which is exceptionally important. Sudden Death is, again, the namesake of the build. Everything flows into that, as well as picking up Ashen Juggernaut and Massacre, very useful. Massacre is probably the one that you could afford to drop potentially, but, there's more than enough other places that you could put it for, spare point. Massacre isn't as relevant because, again, in theory, if you're getting enough sudden death procs, it doesn't matter whether you can start executing from 35% or 20% because you're getting enough of the, the juice from sudden death to make it worthwhile anyway. However, assuming that you still pick it up, you've got this option here. Now, it also helps because, realistically speaking, a shorter cooldown on it means that you're maintaining Ashen Juggernaut higher and you're still getting the free random sudden death procs anyway. Your rage generation is much better from 35% and lower by running Massacre, but I digress regardless. So you need to go right because of Blade Storm. You need to go right because of Improved Whirlwind and Meat Cleaver. You need to go right because of all the execute talents. And then on the right-hand side of the tree is also all the Raging Blow talents. But they've also made it very clear that you need to be hitting Bloodthirst on, you know, every cooldown basically to try and proc this Frenetic Flurry. That's the biggest kind of frustration that you have. Whenever you were running high Bloodthirst usage, you typically also got Cold Still Hot Blood, so that way you could at least try and get some extra bleeds. That completely comes off the table now due to the nerf to Thunderous Words. Thunderous Words used to be a 15% to just all bleeds available. We sure as shit can't get Odin's Fury anymore, so that bleed's gone. But most importantly, the Thunderous Words bleed increase is now 30%, which sounds really good, but it's only available during that 8-second window of Thunderous Roar being active on the targets. So that kind of just means you've only got this 8-second gap. Really kind of throws anything bleed related out of the window. The only bleed you will have access to now is Thunderous Roar itself, and then maybe Cold Still Hot Blood if you chose to run it. There's no way of guaranteeing 100% crit chance on Bloodthirst anymore, unless if you went further deeper down to get Blood Craze and things like that. And you're really kind of hitting that sweet spot where you just don't have the talent point budget to be able to afford to do anything with Bloodthirst, which is frustrating, right? Because again, we're incentivized to hit Bloodthirst, but we can't play into it in terms of the talents. And that's where the real feely craft of it just doesn't synergize very well. Now, furthermore, on top of that, if you're not running any sort of bleed and you're just throwing out a Thunderous Roar for the sake of it, potentially you're even looking at maybe going into Champion Spear. The reallocation of that, you will notice as well with all the changes of the different positions or everything. Again, it's kind of like a bit of a deep commitment to have to get Champion Spear now. But in all honesty, especially with the devaluing of Thunderous Roar, there potentially could be a world where you're running Champion Spear and just blowing your big Blade Storm load or proccing a bunch of Frenetic Flurries in the Champion Spear during that uptime. But it really depends on your capability of standing inside your own spear location. You know, we already see the struggles of things like Death and Decay and Consecrate for Paladins, right? The whole point was it's frustrating to have a set location you have to stay in when it's not realistic that you're always going to be able to stay in that zone. Spear suffers from the same thing. And you typically won't see this being used in Mythic Plus for that reason. So you would run into the Thunderous Words, but the whole bleed aspect got nerfed heavily. You're super incentivized for Bloodthirst while getting none of the benefits from your standard talents, right? And it is really cool that they've shifted a lot of these things around. You'll notice a lot of changes. Again, we have Blade Storm back in the fray, which is really nice. But just forcing all your AoE stuff, including Blade Storm, including all the execute, so deep on the right-hand side of the tree, really limits you when this stuff, Slayer itself, is all based off the Bloodthirst. It would be really cool, a simple change, just literally flick it to be Raging Blow instead of Bloodthirst, and then all your problems are solved. Literally, just that one switch to Raging Blow would honestly help a lot. Now, in terms of how the repositioning, they did promise us we'll get Shockwave as an easier location. That is now, you know, the example of all the capstones. We don't have 4 capstones anymore. We only have 3. Champion Spear did go into a bit of a feels bad position, but that's fine. It's still doable, sort of, right? And, you know, you pick up your Shockwave pretty handily, and you've got Rumbling Earth to help reduce the cooldown. I like the increased range on it as well. Obviously, it's quite easy to get in terms of pathing and everything. But we're sort of locked down for options. You know, you very much have a stricter talent budget here than you typically otherwise would. But much more flexibility when it comes to, you know, a raiding environment where you don't need certain stops and things like that for raid. So that's an option as well. It is still a shame that things like Intervene means that we can't use it as a defensive cooldown for allies or anything. It just flat out means that you do it on a tank accidentally and you're going to completely gimp yourself. It would be nice if it turned it into a DR instead of just blindly taking all the melee and ranged hits, right? But, you know, something we've been calling for still hasn't happened. That's fine. In terms of the reallocation as well, you'll notice as well that we don't have Annihilator or Storm of Swords or anything anymore. It's just Odin's Fury. It's just, unfortunately, with this Slayer build, you'd never path down on the left side. And that dichotomy between Bloodthirst and Raging Blow just feels really restrictive and like not very intuitive and not very synergistic, or yeah, whatever magic word I'm trying to use. So yeah, it's a bit of a struggle town. I haven't had a chance to play it, but the general consensus on literally every Warrior forum, the Discords, all that jazz, every video that you might have seen from other people, Method Dan, for example, the warrior for Method, shared similar sentiment. It just feels, yeah, it's a bit of a feels bad. But all in all, it's nice that we got the talent rework. It certainly helped in a lot of ways, but it left a lot to be desired, at least for this. This was my most exciting hero talent combination with Fury, and now it's just turned out to be very lackluster. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be very keen to know. Comments down below. I will obviously be checking out Mountain Thane, Fury, as well as both Slayer and Colossus for the arms side of things as well. So plenty of videos to come. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment. And also, if you want to see a nice little rainbow thing that comes up on your screen, keep an eye out for it. Like button. YouTube's really cool. When I just say the word like button, makes a little rainbow around the like button now. I didn't know that. I learned that. Pretty cool. Peace.